So our next guest today is Mark Salzberg, Chairman of the Certified Collectibles Group, or CCG. CCG is the parent company of NGC and PMG, the leaders in their fields for coin and currency authentication. Founded in 1987, NGC and PMG are the premier grading authenticating companies in rare coins and paper money. In 2021, CGC was acquired by the Blackstone Group, who recognized their industry strength and potential for massive growth, especially in other collectible categories like sports and game card grading, game cartridges, and other exciting new areas of collectibles. We'll certainly find out more about that in today's conversation. Folks, this is a formidable company with over 100 experts in specific collectible fields and nearly 40 years of operational experience and a worldwide footprint in over a dozen countries. CGC is an organization that's built for growth. Mark Salzberg, our guest today, has presided over this growth, and it's a real honor to have him here today talking with us. So Mark, thanks so much for joining us today. It's an exciting and a dynamic time for collectibles. Personally, I'm hearing a lot about collectibles as an asset class for the first time ever. I never really heard our industry being spoken about this way, and it strikes me that this is a kind of a game-changing perspective for our industry. Is that how you see it?
Yeah, I've been predicting the convergence of the collectibles world with the traditional financial markets for a long time now, because you can see who's jumping into the business or who is building collections. And I've been dealing with hedge fund managers and sophisticated investors for years that have asked me, how to invest, and they've been buying high-profile items, trying to accumulate material and doing it in a very sophisticated way. So I saw this coming, and then because we're in so many verticals, you see the idiosyncratic nature of these things. That people who collect currency are different than who collect comic books and who collect coins, but there is some crossover. But in general, they all have there's two similarities. One is that they are very, very passionate. They're very passionate about what they do. They love to collect. They love the artifact. And when I explain this convergence, the one thing that resonates with the guys from Wall Street or Blackstone or these private equity firms that I've dealt with recently is that the one thing they have to understand is if you sell a share of Apple, it's a click. Right? You don't care.
Right.
You may care a little bit, but you're not going to care if you sell one of your precious coins or comic books. For me, I always say it's like ripping out an organ if I have to sell a coin. I just hate it. And I have 50 of the same things sometimes, and it's just, if you're not built this way, you just don't know what the hell we're talking about. But that kind of personality trait or that kind of human nature of a collector is really important to understand for the investor, because in the traditional investing world, it should be a non-emotional, dispassionate investing. Have an advisor do it for you, or you do it yourself. But in our world, there's that element that you really need to understand. And I also collect art. I collect ceramics, English ceramics, and I've been doing this for a long time. I was in a coin shop when I was 11 years old. I was working there. John Albanese hired me, matter of fact, when I was 11 years old in New Jersey. And the thing that you see is that there's just a common element of this passion, and comparing it to like the art world, for example. These things look undervalued, and our tools that we have applied, that we have built over the years, such as registry and population reports and all the content behind all these artifacts, just make it very comfortable for people that come into our world with real money to say, I understand this. There's transparency here. There's a community here, and I'm jumping in. So yeah, there is a sea change happening, evidenced by StockX of the world, those sort of companies that are the market of everything. I don't see why that doesn't continue and only get better across the world.
Right. I mean, I agree with you completely. I agree with, everything you're saying resonates with us. We're specifically in the numismatic field here at Gray Sheet. We may not always be in that field. We get a lot of pressure to expand. But we're still developing our tools and products and coins and paper money. And what we're hearing from are some of these newer companies that are very excited, very forward thinking about growth in collectibles, like a StockX kind of companies or PWCC and other companies that have honed their craft elsewhere in cards or in comics and things like that. And now they're looking at coins and saying, wow, we thought cards and comics were cool and art, but coins are really cool and actually quite rare compared to, of course, what we're talking about. If we start talking about LeBron James, rookie cards, a true rare coin, you can count in your hand and has to have survived 150 years. And of course, your company has been doing this now since about 1987 in numismatics. No one can come back in time and compete with that. We can start today, but you can't be there for this long. So you guys are really at the fulcrum of what's going in this sea change. And the other thing I would add is that it somehow feels cool again to be a collector. I remember sort of hanging my head down. I'm a coin dealer. Really? Why would you do that? And now it's sort of everybody stopping me on the corner or at a cocktail party asking me about coins and collectibles. And you can tell something is changing. So that's awesome. That's awesome. And I know your passion precedes you.
Yeah. Well, it is it's in the ether world, right? Everybody's talking about it, and it's everything from sneakers to Funko Pop to Pokemon with all that stuff. And we have, I think we're going to get into Funko Pop. We recently launched a video game grading, but it's all the fundamentals, right? John Graysheet was there 40 years ago. It's the Wall Street Journal of the industry. And we're a pillar of the industry as well, because after 35 years and 75 million artifacts graded, people feel comfortable dealing with our company and with the security we provide them. We're impartial. We have a guarantee. We have over 100 experts, and we have an archive that's, there's nothing you can compare it to. Right. So these fundamentals have been there. So if you apply that and replicate it like we did with currency, with comic books, with stamps in China, with video games, and on, you just replicate that, and the tools like a registry are a blueprint for people to figure out how to collect and compete. And it's really the gamification of collectibles. So yeah, you hear these high profile results on a rookie card, and I'm not that guy, right? I don't like that kind of stuff. I think those are extremes, and I get very uncomfortable when I hear those things, because as dealers, or I was a dealer for 7 or 8 years before NGC, you get a feel for markets, you get a feel for extremes. That was an extreme. It was easy to call, in hindsight, but I was very nervous. And coins started to really get heated up there too. Mm-hmm. The difference is in coins is that there really is obviously a finite amount of them. We are a mature company. There were a mature collectible. There was fast money with the COVID money. There was fast money with low interest rates. Where did the fast money go? It went into these kind of fringe, kind of categories that weren't mature, like cards. Even though vintage held up, it seems like, in cards, and there's real depth there. But this new stuff, of course, you could predict that was going to take a hit, and it's taken a major hit. However, we started grading cards about 18 months ago, and we did 1 million cards in a year. It was like Zoom. So we had to get into that category. But if you have these holders and you have the technology and you respect the artifact and you apply these tools with the great company we have, really, there is this, you can see how this is going to impact other collectibles down the road if we choose to get into them. For example, we got into ancients about 12 years ago. We're the only ones who grade and encapsulate ancients. We authenticate them, and it's really transformed the industry. It's changed the landscape of ancient collecting throughout the world, because you see these coins get graded by us. We identify them. Listen, they were intimidating to me until David Vagey came on board and Barry Murphy. They were, I didn't know what I was looking at. Now it's, they tell me what it is. We have the label. We came up with a grading standard that resonates. It's a language we communicate to the world, and it's been accepted. And if you hold an ancient in your hand, they literally emanates power. It's unbelievable. And they're gorgeous and they're related to art and they're $50. I mean, come on. So
Right.
that value component is something as a coin guy,
Right.
that thing's undervalued. Give me 1,000 of them, right? Just put them in my safe.
Right. No, it's historic. It's so historic to hold an ancient coin from, 500 BC or 200 BC or at any historic moments in the time, Macedonia and all these countries that have changed over the years. And it's really exciting. And I agree with you. It's completely intimidating, even to me, to talk about ancients. But NGC transformed that hobby. And of course, one thing that you and I both know is that a lot of the old players don't like it when an authentication company comes and says, "Hey, we're going to transform your hobby for you that you were so comfortable in, and we're going to open this up to tens of thousands of new potential collectors because of that." Because you really can't. Nobody can afford to buy an ancient coin off of the internet without authentication. You will almost assuredly get a counterfeit item, and so this is so important.
Yeah. So we had the same pushback on comic books. And oh, well, you encapsulate it, now you can't read it. Okay, well, get a reading copy and buy a good one, to grade. Put away one and read the other one. And I said the market will grow, the pie will grow. If you have the competence and you're an expert in this area, you should welcome us. Nobody's forcing you to use our grading service. Nobody forced anybody to grade ancients. And now I can tell you, we have auction houses all over Europe sending us coins directly.
Right.
And it's because the price is realized, because they are attracting new customers. And, all the content that we provide and the imaging and the impartiality and all of that. So, the fact that we're Switzerland, the fact that we're here for 35 years and, like I said, have graded so many artifacts gives comfort. So we could be talking about any other category. I love vinyl. I love stamps. We tried to get into stamps recently.
Somebody needs to love stamps.
Yeah, it's like there's a perfect example of like find the guy, and I don't. Very difficult, number one. And when you do, then you have to. It's not driven by demand, right? Nobody's asking us to grade stamps.
Correct.
I want to grade stamps because I think they can plug into our marketplace. It's like, it's like content for HBO. They need content. These people who are selling coins, comics, and currency online and whatever else, they'd love to sell a new product.
Right.
And I know retailers would love to sell high value, high profile stamps, but they won't because they are not certified. And it's a treacherous field, with the perfing, the regumming, and all the other stuff. So I tried that. And if anybody's listening, please give me a call. I'd love to start a stamp grading business.
Well, I'm listening. I love stamps. I actually recently sold my stamp collection because I worried about the longevity of that hobby because there hasn't been new blood. And the reason is exactly what you're saying. There's not any kind of new authentication company doing a good job making this accessible to new collectors. It's a hobby that peaked in about 1933. Franklin Roosevelt or something, and ever since then it's sort of gone downhill. And it's the same authentication kind of people behind it, and they're not open to really a new audience. So you're changing the industry. You're disruptive with coming into ancients, and if you come into stamps or anything else. And I love the convergence of the modern, whether it's Funko Pops, which is not something I ever heard of until 6 months ago, and now I love them myself. Right, I have a wall of them. I think it's great.
That's awesome.
And so this is all of the old and new coming together. And what it really means, since we're talking about coins mostly in this conversation, is what happens with this pressure, because I feel like there's going to be pressure on coins with people who really haven't been here a long time, and there's some, we know that there's some very wealthy people who've gotten into our hobby, and it feels like in the last 2 years, every great coin collection that's come up for sale have been sucked dry by a few people who can afford to buy almost anything, because we're so inexpensive relative to, let's say, fine art. A painting that's worth 80 or 100 million. We peak at about 20 million for the most valuable U.S. coin, let's say, But almost on, even for 7-figure coins, we're still talking about $1 million or $2 million. And that's nothing compared to the rare, because they're much rarer than fine art in that regard, in that category.
Yeah, I can tell you, the last 3 or 4 things that I went after aggressively, I was the underbidder, and I was just like, it's annoying. It's really annoying. I have a great coin collection that I've been building for 30 years, and mine's not traditional. I put away things that are really, I call them freaks of nature, things that shouldn't survive. 1864 quarter eagle and 67 or 68, that mint state, things that that shouldn't survive. But on a broader sense, if there's that's over with. Like there is a finite amount of great things. So what is great, right? What is great? And the things that were great when I was 20 years old are bringing 7 figures now. I mean, Roosevelt dimes and Jefferson nickels and Washington quarters from mint sets that I would buy for $3 or $5 are now trading for thousands.
Right.
So, everything was modern at one point, right? So I remember going to one of the first coin shops, and they had Washington Carver sets. And I went with my buddy, and he's like, these Washington Carvers are $9 a piece. He's like, they're junk. And those are, one just brought like 30 or 40,000. And so that brings me to modern coins. We do a lot of modern coins, and we do hundreds, more than 100 different countries, and we're just massive in modern and world coins. And I love modern coins. I talk to the mint directors, and I see the products all the time. They come across my desk. I think they're gorgeous. And the fact is, they're available, and they're understandable, and they're really, really well done and very well executed. And there's some countries that are just extraordinary. China is amazing at it. Russia was incredible at it. We're not getting those, obviously, very difficult to get those. But modern coins are the introduction to our hobby. And there's been some criticism about this over the years, calling them souvenirs or whatever. I think that's garbage, and it really annoys me because try putting together a few sets of platinum eagles or proof gold eagles or proof silver eagles. Right. You can put them together. It takes time, but they're really becoming a prized item because they're difficult to accumulate. There's a finite amount of them, and people are being exposed. So I'll give you one little short story. I went to meet Ventris, the new mint director. And she's a great lady, just smart and really, really well-spoken and smart. And she said to me, Mark, I never was exposed to coins, but they're beautiful. And that's what you hear from the people who are buying coins when they see them on TV. They don't know that they're a collector. They don't know that they love coins, but then they see proof eagles, or they see proof buffaloes, or they see a St. Gaudens that's being sold. And all of a sudden they're like, hey, give me another one of these. Or they get a call and they say, well, Mr. X, we have this 95W in this set that you might need. Or did you know this? And so that's the introduction, and that's driving mass amounts of people to generic items. But it also attracts sometimes a whale. It sometimes attracts some guy who wants to put together a complete set of proof gold. You never know. So. Right. Coins basically sell themselves if you tell the story, in my opinion.
Right. It's always been. It occurs to me as you're talking that it's always been a paradox to me when I was a coin dealer that 20th century coins had greater value than 19th century coins, which were much scarcer. But because people really want to collect the things that they saw when they were kids. So now, of course, we have a generation that are collecting coins from the 80s when they were kids, and you and I can't relate to that. But the 80s and 90s are now the things they remember, and silver eagles were introduced in 86, I guess, and dating myself wondering that. And so, but anyway, we didn't think about them as a collectible for many years, and so that's why they're scarce and high grade, because nobody really saved them. Nobody really thought of them as a valuable item in perfection. We just wrote an article, by the way, that just happens to be this one, where we had a reader talk to us about how this is an older gentleman who's a dealer and knows that 1982 and 1983 coinage, which, mint set type coinage, doesn't exist in high grade. These are the rarest coins of the 80s are an MS-67, forget an MS-68, Washington quarter, because they're made in the billions and they just, they bag around and get transferred badly, and nothing exists in really high grade. So there's really something for everybody, even if you're an advanced collector in these modern coins, because, now everyone's going to try to find these things and they won't. Of course, coin dealers around the country are going to get calls when they have one, somebody finds one in change. And we know that, that's still worth 25 cents or something. But this is very interesting. Just to keep going, how has the Blackstone, merger, helped you guys and changed, the dynamic of your company and what you guys can do, in the future? How has that benefited you?
It's interesting. I think the better question is like, why did I sell? I sold the majority of the company, and I have a significant stake still, and I still work. So I'm supposed to be the ambassador and the visionary and great high-end stuff, and that's what I do. I think what was going on was we were growing so quickly, and we were starting to fray a bit. Our systems were antiquated. We were just fragmented in different buildings, and it was just getting unwieldy. And for me, I'm 60, and I've been doing this since I was 11 years old, right? So at some point I wanted to reap some rewards. I wanted to execute on our vision, and I wanted to keep our culture together. And Blackstone, the best private equity firm in the world, if they come in and they can basically help you do all those things. So they have come in and professionalized virtually every category: the financial, the technical, the production side of things. And because we have offices in multiple countries, you have a very complicated financial system with multiple currencies and time zones, and we have over 700 employees now.
Wow.
So it's an enormous business, and it's just one where, like, I didn't get a degree. I went to Drexel University for 9 days, and I can't really. I mean, I can't really tell you what I did there. I don't remember all that much. But I was buying coins, and I was like, what am I doing? I was making more money than my professors, and I love coins, and I knew that's what I wanted to do. My parents were pissed off that I dropped out, but it turned out okay.
I'd say so.
So yeah, so Blackstone's been great. It's really, in retrospect, I think that it's unbelievable that the expertise that the folks on Wall Street have. That also with the fact that our competitor was bought by one of the richest people in the world, and they were very focused on building. It was truly a formidable competitor. So the decision for me, while difficult and emotional, was the right one, and it was the right one for my employees, and I think it's the right one for the coin business, or the collectibles business, because we have to grow up. It's just a matter of, like, the opportunity is enormous, and we don't want to miss it, and we want to get it right. These are important things. I keep coming back to the fundamentals of what we do. Pricing, super important, because it's implied that you did the work, you have integrity, you print these things, they're online, you have interviews, you have experts that you talk to. This all goes towards the investment, not just the monetary investment, but the time and the psychological return you get from these things. And it's important that we continue to do it correctly. As important as it is that I created a holder and spent millions on our holder to make sure that holder was archival, right? I don't want that comic book to rip. I don't want it to turn. I don't want that piece of currency to be impaired, and I don't want the coin to get spots, right? So all of those things are incredibly important. So when you hold that coin in your hand, in the holder, it implies so many things: impartial, authentic, and that the grade and the barcode and the various other things we can do to a holder with overlays and signatures and you name it, and all these thematic labels. We're become a marketing and licensing company, so it's a combination of things, and we're the only two in the world, right?
Right.
So it was bittersweet but it was, in my opinion, the time was right.
Right. It's sort of maybe like seeing your child go off on their own sort of aspect. You have to let go to let the company blossom. And I mean, I get that. I mean, we feel that kind of pressure here in a small company, like you said, because we're doing business now with these hugely technologically advanced companies and very smart people, and they make me feel tiny when I talk to them. And
but John,
a little intimidating.
I get it, man. I get it. I felt that way when I started the process. I'm talking to folks, family offices with 8, 10, 20 billion to invest, and folks on Wall Street and Goldman and all that. And I can tell you that they want to be on our side of the table because we built this, and we know what we're doing. And while we don't have the degrees and we don't have this or that, we understand our business and we speak this language. So what you do is so important. It's so important, and you just got to you continue to replicate it with currency and the world currency and different markets. I just see a great future for both our companies.
Well, I appreciate that. I came here to pump you up, though, not that you don't have. It wasn't for that.
I'm just talking, man.
No, I know. I really appreciate it. You actually can relate to that same problem as I can with yours, for the same reason. This industry is growing up, and this is the reality of it. And being small in this industry is going to be difficult. I mean, there's some very large players. I think I read recently that Goldman even has analysts covering collectibles. I mean, I never heard of something like that in the past. They actually have specialists learning about collectibles and tracking values. This is unheard of.
So they asked me to speak at a conference that they have. It's called APAX, and it's in New York, and it's once a year. And listen to this statistic, okay? So I was invited to speak at a symposium for collectibles, and there was another guy who was doing Ferraris, and they asked me to talk about collectibles. So there's 15,000 family offices. They invite 130 families. The average family office net worth, $4.5 billion. So what we're talking about here is, we talk about a coin that brings $3 million, and we're all like, whoa, right? Or 5 million, 7 million. These people, there's so much liquidity in the world that are searching for new things to invest in. And I kind of laugh when I spoke to these 45 people, like, what am I supposed to tell you to buy? Right? I had a conversation with one guy years ago. He was a hedge fund guy. He eventually bought a lot of coins. And he said, what do you buy, Mark? And I said, I'm buying colonial currency. Why? And I said, because it financed the Revolutionary War. They're fantastic. They're a few $100s a piece. Some of them are declaration of signers, and its stuff is gorgeous. And he goes, can I spend $5 million on it in that category? And I said, if you want to buy it all. Right. He goes next. What else you got for me? And so there's a different mindset, and we're just entering that different mindset. And when you talk to young dealers that are coming into the hobby, there's actually quite a few, and I love mentoring them. I love bringing them on board or coming in for a few days to grade, because they're the future, and they're dealing in pretty coins. They're dealing what they can get, things that they can promote, things that they can build. Roosevelt dimes with full torches, and full step nickels, and Washington quarters, and proof Franklins. What I used to buy for $8, $10, $12, 40 years ago, are now 10, 15 grand if they're ultra cameo and they have the right this or that. So, this is I forget what we were talking about actually, but that's what's been going on.
We're talking about how scarce these items are relative to the people coming into this market and altering it severely, because we have this mature market that was kind of waiting to be discovered, and now it's being discovered, and that in itself is scary. It's sort of like the ultimate vacation spot in Italy being, all of a sudden gets overwhelmed because people realize how wonderful it is. And I think that's what I could say about the numismatics business, is how wonderful we are. And I'm a little nervous about people finding us. So, we'll see. And it's my job here at the Gray Sheet to basically monitor valuation and trends and talk to people like yourself and learn all about this industry. So it's been fantastic, and I think it's been a great conversation. So Mark, there's been some news in the coin business over the last few weeks about the CAC or CAC company coming and transforming itself from a stickering company to now a full-fledged grading company. Would you like to comment about this new entrant?
Sure. I think that, stickering a coin, first of all, CAC is a trading network. Stickering, theoretically the high grade or the high, the better quality for that grade. And there's no relationship to what we do as a grading service. It's really a night and day. And, CAC was a great success. John and I have known each other for 40 years, 50 years. Geez, it's been a long time. Anyway, he built a great company, and now they're gonna try to take that brand into a full-blown grading service. So what is a full-blown grading service? You have to have, many components besides graders. The holder is ultra important. Authentication is incredibly important. Attribution is important. All of these things, you have to get right. The back end of it, the population report, the registry, the shipping, the security, all of these things, it's night and day compared to, I like this 65, it's high end, I'm going to sticker it. And the other aspect of it is, we have the least amount of influence or conflicts. So our job, our mandate is we don't buy and sell coins on a commercial basis at NGC. And so we're not thinking about our checkbook. We're not thinking about the market. We're not thinking about did we grade one of these? Do we buy and sell one of these recently? Did we make one of these? I mean, there's just, all we have to do is grade the coin, and we're known for pulling the trigger. I always my mindset is, if we made one of these before, so what? The person who's submitting this paid to have it evaluated. And we shouldn't be looking at the pops. We should just be grading the coins. So I think that, it's very interesting that he's coming in. I think the brand is a really great brand. And I think I wish him luck. I speak to John. I think that it's sort of indicative of like what's happening in the marketplace with the behemoths coming in with the 0.72 investing money and the Blackstone investing money. It's almost predictable. So I think that there's a tough road to hoe. I think that it'll be a little bit disruptive. But remember, we're grading 10 or 15,000 coins a day, 40,000 items a day on all our categories. So when you talk about, it's going to take some time to have like some impact into our business if they get traction. And it's I think a net positive for the coin business. I don't know. People are definitely talking about it. So it's people want two grading services, in my opinion. They want to arbitrage, or I think that it's just it's going to be interesting. Let's put it that way.
Sure. And I agree. I think that was a great answer. I think that it'll sharpen everybody in terms of paying attention. I see my impression is CAC will be sort of a niche player. They're not really looking to be mass market, or they're not interested in my, conversations with John about being huge. That doesn't seem to be where his mind is at. So we'll see. And that's all we can do here at Gray Sheet is to say, we'll see. Cause I agree. It's different to cherry pick, the best coins and holders than it is to just start with them and just say, these are all going to be the best coins that we're going to grade from ground zero.
And we're making some assumptions too, that their grading standard or how they communicate that will be similar, the same, I guess, vernacular as we use, the same language we use when we describe a coin. Like I read something about him grading or saying that an early 10, typically the grading service call it 62, but we knew it was a little cleaned 100 years ago, so we're going to call it 60.
Right.
Cleaned. I mean, that's something that's interesting to me. Grading is a language that we speak that's understood between the collector, between the dealer, and ourselves. And so when we communicate that, we have to think about that. That's why we couldn't take ancient grading and put a numeric grade on it. So we have strike and wear and fine style and surfaces. And so we really kind of try to aggregate that or put a solid adjectival grade, and then we put little notes if it's fine style, meaning if you can recognize that guy in the crowd. So, but my point is that there is a lot to a grading service. It's an incredibly difficult thing. I have over 30 or 40 really specialized guys that have taken a long time. I think we've aggregated the most experts in the world, actually, in under CCG, which is Certified Collectibles Group, this umbrella that has all these different companies in it.
Right. I mean, the barriers to entry have never been greater, as I think have covered pretty well in this conversation about how challenging it is, how big your depth is of resources and multiple countries and currencies. Everything about it is complicated. It will not be easy. It will hopefully be good for the industry as a whole. We certainly don't know yet at Gray Sheet how to reflect, like you say, a third party, grading company. Well, thank you for answering that. And I think it's interesting. We should follow up on this in some period of time to find out how things are shaping up. But I think you and I could sit down at any time and speak on any of the topics that we did today and probably go into them deeper. And I hope you'll want to, because I think this is what the viewers want to see is people like yourself really speaking naturally and talking about our business. You and I go back, decades together. I know you and I have done the same old coin shows in Parsippany, New Jersey since we were kids, and little Red Roof Inn hotels and all that. And it's been quite a journey. And I think the cool part is that we're just kind of in the middle of the journey now. And that's I think 10, 15 years ago, I thought this was kind of a tapering off of our industry. Yeah. It didn't feel like there was a lot of legs, and now I can't believe how it feels. It feels like the wide open funnel.
Right. So, once you turn that, once you had that, that switch, a number of things happened. First of all, COVID accelerated things dramatically. We're in a really interesting time now. It's very difficult to get product, from what I understand. Not only vintage coins, but certainly modern coins. They're just not making enough planchets. There's huge demand. The mints are having a lot of trouble producing material. The supply chain has affected them, and people are recognizing that these modern coins are tough to find in 70. And there's real money coming out of the stock market. There's been a tremendous amount of wealth that's been created, and there's certainly money flowing from that out of the market into hard assets. So yeah, I'm happy to talk about this anytime.
Awesome.
You know, I used to wake up every day as a warrior, and I got to put that energy now somewhere else.
Right. Nothing to worry. just opportunities to work on. So let's do it. Looking forward to that next conversation. Mark, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure.
Obviously, we could go on about 100 different topics. So let's plan on doing that again as soon as possible. To our viewers, thanks so much for joining us on these important industry chats. If you want more of this content, please be sure to like this video and to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Please make some comments below, and I will personally address them as I see them come in. And also, of course, we'd love for you to check out our website at greatsheet.com. We've got a lot of great subscription plans. If you're interested in numismatics, we've got data for you. Thanks so much.